Chapter 15, we get into some really, really good information in Chapter 15. This is one of those chapters that it's really, really hard for me to make a video for. I've already tried 3 times to make this video. There's so much information, so many little things that are in the chapter that I want you to know about, but yet I want you to know the details. And I'm just finding it really, really hard to do this chapter without giving you like a 35 or 40-minute video. Um, so, normally when we're in the classroom, I have 52 minutes and I go through these chapters and it takes me the full time to go through them. So I'm really missing being able to give you all the little details and point out all the little funny things that happen with the kids. So here we go. I'm going to try this again and see if I can shorten it. My last one was 37 minutes. I know you don't want to spend 37 minutes on one chapter. So here we go. Chapter 15 starts off, you got to remember that Dill has not been around for any of the things that happened. He wasn't here for the treasures in the tree. He doesn't know about the pants being sewn up. He has no idea about the blanket being put around Scout's shoulders. So the kids are, especially Jem, has decided, back off, leave Boo Radley alone. He's not a monster. He's not a freak of nature. We don't need him. We don't need to bother him. Dill, on the other hand, has spent the year back in Meridian, Mississippi, dreaming about and fantasizing about and just thinking about Boo Radley and how to get him to come out. So he has a plan. Of course, it's a perfect plan. It's fail-proof. And his plan is, let's leave him a trail of lemon drops. And he'll follow the trail of lemon drops. He'll come out of the house and he'll come out on the sidewalk and then we can talk to him. So just one of those little things that is a very, very good example of Harper Lee writing this from the viewpoint of the kids, that only children would come up with a plan of lemon drops. I mean, I love lemon drops, but if I've been in the house for 15 years, I'm not going to follow a trail of them in the dirt, and that's going to force me to come out. Okay, but Dill thinks that it will. Anyway, moving on. This is where we get into a lot of our information from the Scottsboro trial, the real life Scottsboro trial that you just watched the video for, both from me and from the lady from Emory. So the first thing that happens is that a group of men come to Atticus's house to talk about Tom Robinson. And what I need you to understand about this group of men is that these are the men from town. These are the men that are of the higher society. These are white men. These are educated, professional men. You're talking about Heck Tate, the sheriff. You're talking about the guy who owns the store, Link Diaz, downtown. You're talking about the person who owns the hardware store. You're talking about the newspaper writer. You're talking about the doctors. You're talking about the dentist. You're talking about all those kinds of people. Okay? And they come to Atticus's house during the daytime, in public. They stand right out there on the sidewalk talking about this. You need to understand the symbolism of this is that they're not trying to hide anything. They come and talk about the situation in the open. It's not that they agree with what Atticus is doing by actually defending Tom Robinson. It's that they are concerned there's going to be trouble at the jail, and they have come to talk to him in person, in the daylight, in public. This is the way that you discuss disagreements. This is the way you're supposed to discuss disagreements. All right? So after they're there, after they have been to Atticus's house, a little bit later, Atticus drives his car and goes into town. This is a huge detail. Earlier in the book, I didn't point it out in a video, but earlier in the book, it talks about how Atticus always walks to work. He has a car, but he only drives it when he's going long distances. Okay? When he's going to work, he walks the 3 blocks. He says, oh, it gives me good exercise, but you might think, maybe it's because gas is expensive or there isn't much gas in the 1930s. That could be a reason, but I think there's another reason, and that's that Atticus doesn't drive the car because nobody else is driving the cars. And if he were to drive his car the 3 blocks, 4 blocks to get downtown to work, it kind of flaunts the fact that, oh, I have a car and I can drive it. Like, I have a car, I have the money to buy gas, that kind of stuff. So, Atticus, remember when Miss Maudie said that he quit hunting? He realized that he had an advantage, an unfair advantage over other things, living things, and it wasn't right to take advantage of that. I would propose to you that this is one of Atticus's unfair advantages. He's been blessed. He is a white man who's been blessed by God financially, and the fact that he's white. All right. Atticus does not want to take advantage of that, so he typically walks places. However, this night, he says he's going to go down to the office to work a little bit, but he drives his car, which makes the kids go, something is not right. And so the kids decide that they're going to go and just check and make sure that he's okay. So they go downtown, and the first place that they look for him is at his office, because that's where he said he was going to be. He's not there. It's all dark. So then they go around the block, and they find him. And he's sitting outside the jail, underneath a window. He's got like an extension cord that has a light bulb at the end of it, like a construction type extension cord. And it's hanging down from the window. The bulb is right over his head. And he's just sitting there in a chair. He's got the chair pushed back. He's got the newspaper out, and he's just sitting there on the sidewalk reading the newspaper like it's completely normal. This is the picture you need to see of Atticus. He does not freak out in the face of difficult or dangerous things. When the mad dog was coming down the road, he was calm and cool and collected out there in the street and shot it. When Miss Maudie's house was on fire, calm and cool and collected, looked like he was watching a football game. And now here he sits underneath the window of the jail cell where Tom Robinson is being held, waiting for a mob to show up. And it does. Okay? All of a sudden, the kids see this line of cars that comes in. The line of cars, you should understand that they come by car, they've come from a ways away. This group of men who meets outside the jail is a completely different group than the group that met at Atticus's house. The men that show up at the jail are the countrymen. Okay, these are the men who are more on the uneducated side. They are the lower class. Remember, the 1930s Great Depression hits the farmers the worst, so they are the poorest one, poorer than the town people. And this group has also been drinking. Okay, so alcohol tends to give people a false sense of courage. And many times when people get together and they've been drinking, they are willing to do things that they wouldn't normally do because they're in a group. It's like the alcohol gives this courage, and then the group being there gives this courage. And what it is it's called mob mentality. You no longer think the group is no longer a group of individuals all thinking separately for themselves of what they should be doing, but they kind of feed off of each other, and they come with one collective sense of, oh, let's go do this, and they go do it. Notice that this group comes by the cover of darkness. So the other group came during the daytime, stood there in public, and discussed things in a very mature, calm way. This group comes by the cover of night, which stop and think about your own selves. Stop and think about the stupid things that you have done in your lifetime. Most of those things have happened with a group and at night. For some reason, we tend to do things under the cover of darkness that we wouldn't do in the open daylight. So here comes this mob of men with mob mentality. They've got this false sense of what I don't know what the word is. They've just got this false sense of bravery, I guess, um, because they've been drinking and because they're together. So they show up outside the jail. Now, one of the things that I didn't talk about and the professor from Emory didn't talk about is the fact that during the Scottsboro trial, Alabama people came to the jails where these 9 black boys were being held, and they tried to break those guys out of jail, not for freedom, but so that they could lynch them. They wanted those boys to be handed over to them to be hung. No trial, no jail. Give them to us, we'll take care of them. So this was a huge deal, and those boys were in a very highly guarded place because local people wanted to just take care of it themselves. So here is another piece of, hey, this is reflective of what's really going on down here. Here comes this mob of men. They're there to break Tom Robinson out, to kill him. They're there to lynch him, to hang him. No trial, no jail. Let's take matters into our own hands. And we're going to kill him. Why? Because he's black. All right? People in the 1960s are not happy that Harper Lee is exposing this part of their society. So, here's Atticus. He has a newspaper, and that's it. He doesn't have a gun. Go back to that courage of definition that he gave. Courage is not a man with a gun in his hand. It's when you know you're licked before you begin, but you begin anyway, and you see it through no matter what. Here he is waiting for this mob to show up, a mob that is there to kill someone. And he's sitting there with a newspaper. No gun, no knife, nothing. Just him. Does that take courage? Yeah, it does. This whole scene would have unfolded differently if Atticus had been standing there with a gun, right? Because now he is engaging in that violence. So instead, he's just sitting there reading his newspaper, calm, collected. Do you think he was calm on the inside? No way. These guys show up, they've got weapons. They're there to kill. He had to have been very, very scared. But he doesn't show it. All right. So when the kids see this, they're like, oh, we got to help him. And they run into the mix. Now, having the kids run in is not a help. Now, all of a sudden, here's Atticus. He can take care of himself. He's not worried about, if the mob hurts me, will they hurt me? But now you go into a whole different phase when your kids are in danger. And we get some very important things that happen here. The kids run into the circle, and Atticus tells Jem, go home. Take your sister and Dill and go home. And for the first time ever, Jem disobeys and says no. Atticus had to have been floored. Like, here he is having to deal with this mob, and now his kids run in. He's trying to deal with his kids. You can't deal with the mob and with your kids at the same time. He tells him again, go home. And Jem says, no, sir, I won't. And he stands up to Atticus and says, no, he's not going home. One of the guys grabs him, says, I'll make him go home, and lays hands on Jem. And before Atticus can even do anything, Scout says, you leave him alone. And she kicks this guy. And I don't know if you caught it, but it said that she meant to kick him in the shin, but she must have aimed a little higher. She kicks him in the privates, and he falls back in real pain. Like, she got him good. So I don't know if you caught that part, but that's why he let go of Jem and backed off, because she kicked him where it really hurts. And so now Atticus is like, Scout, don't kick people. Like, he's having to deal with and discipline the kids, and yet he's trying to have this air of confidence with the mob, but his own kids won't listen to him. I feel so bad for him. And at this moment, Scout recognizes Mr. Cunningham. And when she starts talking to him, well, hey, Mr. Cunningham, I know, how's your entailment going? So remember when Atticus did some lawyer work for Mr. Cunningham and he paid them with things like hickory nuts and smilax and holly and turnip greens and wood for the wood stove. So that's what she's referencing. And when she says, "How's your entailment going?" Number one, you're not supposed children are not supposed to talk to adults about their legal matters. Number two, you're not supposed to talk about somebody's legal matters in front of everybody else. So Scout is just breaking social rules left and right here, and Atticus has just got to be like, "Oh my gosh, could this get a whole lot worse?" And then she says, "Don't you know me? I go to school with your boy Walter. Oh, he's a real nice boy. I mean, I beat him up before, but he's a real nice boy. He didn't. He was okay with it." And we brought him home to dinner one time, and like she's just rambling on like kids do. And what happens is that Scout takes that mob mentality of anger and we're there to kill and we're going to do it together and all that. And she reduces it down to here is Mr. Cunningham and he is one individual. And she brings him back to his right mind of an individual. She points out, not meaning to, but in all her rambling, she points out how Atticus helped him when he needed help. Atticus is a good man. You don't want to hurt him. He's helped you. She talks about his son. She brings him back to that mentality of, you have a son. Do you want him to grow up doing the same thing you're doing? You're going to go home and tell your son where you were and what you just did? Like, it brings you back to a different place when you think about how your actions affect your children. But basically, she brings it back to this, you're an individual. He's been singled out of the mob, and it kind of brings him back to his right senses. And he's like, come on, boys, we're done. And they leave. All right. So she did that through talking to him. Next important things are that Tom, he heard the whole thing. Think about the fear that he must have felt in that jail cell when a mob of men who have been drinking show up, and the only thing standing between you and that mob is Atticus Finch with his newspaper. Like, he had to have been scared. Let me jump back to where the sheriff is. When the mob was there, Atticus was like, it's okay, the sheriff's on his way, the sheriff will be coming. And they're like, no, he won't. He's on a snipe hunt. A snipe hunt is when you send somebody out looking for something that doesn't exist. It's like a wild goose chase is what we usually call it. Maybe you remember the movie Up with the little Boy Scout who needs to help the elderly to get his badge, and finally the elderly Mr. Robertson? Mr. I can't remember. But finally, the old man is like, all right, you want to help me? There's a snipe around here, and I don't know. I need to catch him. And so go catch him for me. And so the little boy leaves going, here, snipey, 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 snipey. Right? He sent him on a snipe hunt. So the men have done the same thing. They have called into the sheriff's office and said that there's a disturbance way out in the country, and you need to come. There's a whole brawl. It's dangerous. And so the sheriff has gone way out of town into the country out looking for this disturbance to take care of. And the men have come into town knowing the sheriff is not going to be there to defend Tom. Okay. So it really is just Atticus standing in between them. And then all of a sudden there's a voice from the window next door says, nope, had you covered the whole time. Atticus didn't know this guy was there. Okay. Atticus truly thought he was there on his own. Tom didn't know this guy was there. The guy who's there is Mr. Underwood. It's really important that you recognize him because you're going to get some more information about him in the next chapter. But basically, Mr. Underwood is white and he's extremely racist. He is the newspaper reporter, and he does not like black people whatsoever. And so it's really, really something that he was there in the window next door, which was above the newspaper office, with a gun to protect Tom Robinson, a black man. Kind of important. Next thing that happens, they're walking home. Um, Atticus and Jem are together in front of Scout and Dill. Scout says, "Oh, I bet Atticus was going to, give it to Jem. Like Jem's going to be in so much trouble for disobeying, and she's expecting that he's getting yelled at." And instead, as they come under the streetlight, she sees Atticus reach out and tousle Jem's hair. And it says, and you need to catch this, that his tousling the hair means he just reached out and did one of these things. All right. She says it is Atticus's one sign of affection. Atticus doesn't hug. Atticus doesn't kiss. Atticus doesn't do those things. He has one sign of affection, and that is reaching out and rubbing their heads. Okay. I don't know about your parents, but I'm this same way. I have multiple signs of affection. I hug and kiss and all that. But just walking past my kids, maybe they're in the kitchen and I just walk by and just kind of squeeze their shoulder, you know, um, that kind of thing. It's just a sign of affection. And this is the one sign of affection that Atticus gives. And there's going to be another spot in the book, I want you to watch for it, when he does the same thing to Scout. One sign of affection. Keyword, chapter 15, I want you to know is affection. Affectation. Affection. Hang on to it. Send me one email with all the keywords that you get from chapters 14, my intro, Emory video, 15, 16, 17, 18. Hoi. Goodbye.